Welcome to the Roasted Snow Horror Show,
where fear and dread go head to head.
Welcome to the show, where the screams collide, where blood runs cold, and the shadows hide. Each week a fight, two films will clash. Last week's champ, will it burn to ash? The Roasted Snow Horror Show, where fear and gore will always flow. One film wins, one must go. The Roasted Snow Horror Show. Lights go down, the fight begins. Which nightmare takes the final win? You pick your side, we'll break it down. The Roasted Snow, the goriest showdown.
and here are your hosts,
Chris and Ryan!
Welcome back, everyone, to the Roasted Snow Horror Show. I'm your host, Ryan Rosted. Everybody thinks my last name is Roasted. The guys to my left here, I'm going to introduce here, but my co-host always, the snowman, this sexual tyrannosaurus, Chris Snow. He is here, and we are really excited today because we were able to have a guest that we're super thrilled to talk to. He was a producer, executive producer at Showtown American Pictures. His Ed McKeever. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I appreciate you guys having me on. This is really awesome. And I thought your last name was Roast, so I apologize. That's the way I read it when I actually got the paperwork from you. So now to find out that it's not, I apologize because I was all prepared to say it incorrectly before I even got here.
After this show, doing this show, I might have to legally change it. Just throw the A in there randomly, and then
You're going to start confusing people by saying that it's actually roasted and not roasted.
That's okay. That means we're doing something right. But so everyone knows, obviously, we love talking anything and everything horror. These movies do not get made without people like our guest, without Ed, without anyone and everyone that's involved in these movies, whether it is a full-length feature film that has a wide theatrical release or the indie films. Anything and everything, it's what keeps this genre going. Like we always say here, that it's not one size fits all. Ed, I was able to watch some of your movies, especially the ones that you recommended, and they all three were the ones that I watched were so different from each other. And I think that was awesome to see. The newest one that's on Prime right now is Bitter Souls. Do you just want to talk a little bit about what kind of got you into that project? And because that one has a little bit of a voodoo feel to it. So, and I always like when a movie can do something a little different. So, can you tell us a little bit about Bitter Souls?
I got some good Baba Yaga vibes from this one.
Oh, very cool, very cool. Yeah, I mean, the thing we try to do is we always want to keep everything different. We don't want to be pigeonholed into one space. Horror seems to be what it is we're doing and what we're kind of known for. But, we did a werewolf film. We did a slasher film out in the woods. We did a road trip movie, which I didn't send you guys because, quite truthfully, it's not very good. And a few other things, but we always try to evolve and do something different. We don't want to do the same thing all the time. So we were making a werewolf movie down here in Tampa, Florida. I'm not originally from Tampa, originally from New Jersey, but we're currently down in Tampa. And we did a werewolf movie already. And we're like, listen, we got to do something else. While we were filming this werewolf movie, we saw a thing of Baron Samedi in a metaphysical shop that we're working in. Matter of fact, if you watch the movie The Beast Comes at Midnight, the werewolf film, where the kid goes to meet with like his mentor and stuff, there's this shop where there's all these artifacts and things. Well, one of the things there was this Baron Samedi statue. And we said, hey, you know what? Let's do a voodoo film next. And essentially that's where it came from. The actress, Avriana Rose, actually auditioned for The Beast Comes at Midnight. And she did a great job. So we said, we got to write something for her. So it just kind of came together. Although she did not get the part in The Beast Comes at Midnight, we wrote the part for her in Bitter Souls. And then it kind of evolved from there.
The Baron Samedi doll, I got a huge reference on that one because as soon as I saw, I was like, my mind took me to Live and Let Die, the Bond. Is it Live and Let Die? The Bond film. Yes. Yeah, Roger Moore's first one with Baron Samedi. He's down in New Orleans, Louisiana. Took me right back.
Yeah.
Man.
And we like that look. We like that aesthetic, but we realized we wanted to do something a little different. So we developed the whole project. We wrote the script. We got the cast involved. We got different people involved. We got investors and such. And we put this thing together. And when we brought the director aboard, we were kind of like, hey, what else could we do with it? And we didn't necessarily want to do the New Orleans thing. And actually, this is credited to Tom Ryan, who was our director on the project. And he said, man, I kind of feel like he needs to have like a really graspy voice, make him from the island somewhere. I kind of feel like, and I forget the name of the character. What was that Steven Seagal movie that dealt with voodoo? Out for Death or some Marked for Death, I think.
Marked for Death.
Marked for Death. And there was a voodoo guy in that, but he had a real graspy voice like this, and he was from the islands. And Tom was like, I want something more like that. So I was like, Tom, run with it, brother. Do what you think is best. And that's why it's more a traditional, like, islander voodoo guy as opposed to like a New Orleans zombie voodoo.
That's awesome, because that, I mean, and that first scene in the movie really draws you in there with kind of the vibe you're gonna get. So I really appreciate that, because anyone thinks of voodoo, you think, yeah, it's got to be in it's got to be on Bourbon Street, it's got to be in the heart of Louisiana, it's got to be
zombies, it's got to be voodoo dolls, it's got to be like these specific beats.
Well, we actually had it written for like Ybor City, Tampa area. And there's a place called Ybor City in Tampa, which is a big Cuban and Haitian population. And we were going to use that as kind of like our New Orleans. And there are people that practice, I think it's called Santeria there.
Yeah.
And we were going to kind of model it more towards that. But we had a producing partner named Bob Savakinis that worked out of Scranton, PA. And he said, guys, listen, I'm really tied in with the town here. They're really engaged to make films here. They're like, we got to make a movie here. So my feeling was, well, it could be voodoo in small town America. So let's move it to Scranton. And let's just come up with it doesn't have to be contrived or anything. We're making voodoo in small town America. This little small hick town just happens to have this big occult war going on in this little town. And it actually makes it kind of fun because it's not New Orleans. It could be the house next door to you. Right.
And that is, that's where horror can come in. It can be anybody. It can be, like you said, it could be your neighbor next door. It could be the old lady down the street. It could be anything and anyone.
Those are the scariest pieces where it's like it could literally. It doesn't have to be rooted in sci-fi or visitors from outer space or anything like that. It could literally be the house next door. It could be the person you thought you knew you don't really know, and that's what makes horror great.
Yeah.
No, 100%. And we like that. We really do like that. We think that's fun and really something engaging. Like I said, we want to do something different. We don't want to be like every film we do is exactly like the other guy. We want everything to kind of have our own spin to it. And also, a lot of it comes out of my crazy mind. And if you talk to anybody, they're going to be like, Ed is batshit crazy. He always has been, always will be. Nothing's going to change. He sees the world quite differently. Like, literally, I'll be driving down the road, a song will come on the radio, and like 1,000 thoughts will go through my head. And I'm like, oh, what if there was this kid and he did this, and there was this guy, and there was a girl, and there was explosions, and there was rampaging dwarves. And next thing you know, I'm writing a script that's just like insane. And it's just, that's kind of the way my brain and my process is.
Well, and I love that you said that, because a little backstory on me. I went to film school way back when and always wanted to make movies and this and that. Obviously it didn't work out. It's a tough industry, man. And I really love script writing, but I kind of would have the same thing. Like I had this idea to do like this trilogy that took place at this place called Hermit Falls in California. Like I went there and I had the opening credits, the closing credits, and had like the story beats. And it's just like, it's so much work, even to something that never even comes close to fruition. So in your opinion, what do you think is the most challenging aspect of getting a movie like this off the ground?
Well, when you write a script, you have to write a script in a manner of, you have to look at all the assets you have at your disposal. You have to look at the actors that you can actually get. And we've been fortunate. I've worked with WWE wrestlers. I've worked with people that at one time may have been A-list entertainers. Maybe you get them when they're going up in their career or going down in their career, or whatever it is, whatever circumstance it may be, to make them more attainable for your small independent film. And the way you do that is by writing a fun script, write a part that they're going to enjoy playing. And you have to really do it If your buddy has a farmhouse, you got to write in a farmhouse. If your buddy has a roller skating rink, you got to write in a roller skating rink. So one of the films I know you saw was 100 Acres of Hell. And the advantage we had with 100 Acres of Hell is we shot it on a very small budget. We made that movie, I don't really want to out it for the producers, but let's just say much less than $100,000. And Lionsgate acquired it from us. And but the reason we're able to shoot it so inexpensively is because we didn't, but our friend who was in WWE had a friend who owned an airport. So we had to write in a helicopter in an airport scene because these are all things that give you more production value. So anything that we had at our disposal, he just happened to have a friend who owned a mountain that had a bunch of old cars on it and old trailers. And we're like, oh man, that's the lair for our killer, Jeb Tucker. He kills people and all those. We didn't have to set dress any of that because they literally had 40 years of family cars that when a car would go down, they would park it up on the mountain and then sell parts from it. Or however they did it. I don't know their business, but they had this collection of old cars sitting there that we adapted into our storyline. So if you can do that as an independent filmmaker, if you wanted to dress that set on a Steven Spielberg film, you're like, okay, well, we need $500,000 to create Jeb Tucker's mountain. We didn't have $500,000. So we found the mountain and we're like, hey, by the way, this is Jeb Tucker's mountain.
What do you think it is, going on that note too? Like, one thing that we've noticed, and Ryan and I have talked about this on the show a lot, is one thing we say is that there's some kind of horror for everybody, particularly. And with regard to horror films themselves, we do notice that a lot of them that do shoot on like lower budgets, they don't necessarily have to be a AAA Hollywood film. And even the ones that, do get those wide releases, they make them for $5 million, $6 million. So in your opinion, why do you think horror specifically as a genre consistently outperforms other genres that are made with low budgets?
Well, I think it's because, one, even a bad horror film, you can find something interesting in it. If you make a bad comedy, it can totally miss the mark. If you write a bad drama, it can completely miss the mark. You write a bad sci-fi film, and the sci-fi community will rip you apart. The horror community will be like, yeah, it sucked, but there was blood, there was breasts, there was whatever one of the key indicators is that makes the film interesting. People can gravitate towards that, and there'll still be a portion of the audience that will be interested in that film. If you do that with any other genre, it just doesn't work. You could have the entire community of a genre turn on you. You could have a comedy where everyone that's a comedy fan's like, that movie sucks. But no matter how bad of a horror film you make or how great of a horror film you make, you're going to have people that are like, it sucks, and you're going to have people like, it's my favorite horror film of all time. Because there's just people that are, the way that they gravitate towards the different emotional responses with a horror film are just so varied.
They really are, and that was a great question, Chris. Damn, I should have had one like that. But yeah, and I think especially with horror, just the general premise of a movie can really set it up, regardless of whether it has faults in other aspects, whether it be, whether a budget, hampers it, or an actor's performance isn't that great. Because especially in horror, I feel like there's a lot more movies that they're so bad they're good sometimes, that people just love going back and watching, and that's what we like talking about on our show. Because, hey, we have different opinions all the time. I love a movie, he hates it, vice versa. And our whole thing is we just want to know why you like a certain movie. And one that I go to is, it was Halloween Resurrection. I love that movie because it was the first R-rated movie I snuck into. So I have that memory with it, even though it is a garbage movie. It is awful.
I like Halloween Resurrection. What I don't like is I'm never going to believe that who's the guy who kicks his ass at the end?
Is it Busta Rhymes?
The rapper, Busta Rhymes. All right, listen. Busta Rhymes is probably a tough guy. I don't want to put him down, but he's not kicking Michael Myers' ass. Sorry, it's just not happened in any way, shape, or form. It's just the fact that he was kind of the name talent of the time. They were looking to do something different, whoever the producers were, the writers of that particular episode. And I think they really hurt the legacy of the character by doing that. Because dude ain't coming out there and karate chopping and kung fu kicking Michael Myers. It's just not happening. It was ridiculous. But other than that, as far as the structure, you got to look at the time it came out. It was not too far after a Blair Witch Project. So the people doing the what do they call it, first person thing was like that,
the found footage. Yeah,
Yeah, the found footage. I don't know why I couldn't think of that, but the found footage was in, so it was like, oh, we have to incorporate that. And then a couple kids from American Pie, like they were trying to hit all the check marks when they were putting that one together. They're like, oh, okay, we could bring back Jamie Lee Curtis, but we only have her on set for a couple days. So they were checking all the boxes for the fans, and I think the one place it fell apart was in my head. That's kind of where the original series ends before they reboot it into something else. And to have it go out where some dude who's like a producer on a TV show kicks the shit out of Michael Myers in a basement. No, come on, man. No, like I literally remember walking out of the theater pissed off.
Well, and he goes, trick or treat, motherfucker.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean,
Catchline. He needs his hasta la vista, baby.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't buy it, man. I wasn't feeling it. I didn't get it. You know, there's some people, and here's the thing about horror, right? There's probably people that are like, Ed is crazy. That is a cinematic masterpiece.
He's sitting right next to us. He's right here on camera with us.
Yeah. Well, and you brought up the found footage thing, and yeah, like in that movie, they have the cameras attached to them because they're doing a web series and a web show, and that was right before streaming and all that got really big. So it's like it just missed the mark just a little bit, and it's fine. I mean, we're talking indie films today. I mean, one that. And found footage, so sorry to go off on a tangent here, but I brought it up on the show, was The Last Broadcast. That came out, I think, 1 year before Blair Witch Project, and it was Blair Witch before Blair Witch. The movie's great until the last 10 minutes, and then it just completely falls apart. But, like, man, if that had just been released, a little wider before Blair Witch Project, maybe we're having a different conversation. But it's just funny how many
and they changed that ending. They had it. They should have changed that ending. I'm not putting down the filmmakers. I'll trash studio films. I don't like to trash independent films. But for me, I didn't think the payout at the end was good for me.
No.
The Last Broadcast was cool. It was about the Jersey Devil initially, which I'm a Jersey guy, so I get that.
Yep.
But I don't think it was filmed in Jersey. I think it was filmed in Canada or the Midwest or something.
Right, they get a tax break. Yeah,
100%. They can be smart. Do you feel like one of the you mentioned something, kind of about those films, and I always feel like films are, especially particularly horror films, are almost a product of their time. And what I mean by that is, in the 70s is really we had a lot of the slasher film kind of started to come about, and in the 80s I feel like they really delved deep into like the monster films, and then in the 90s we kind of saw found footage stuff. Do you think we'll see these trends in horror? Do you think there's any horror trend that you think is just going to burn out, where it's just not going to hit the way that it used to?
Yeah, no, I like the way you're actually saying that, because look at the 70s, right? A lot of the 70s is I'm isolated. Well, look, I'm in the middle of nowhere. Nobody can get to me because nobody can reach me by phone. There's no cell phones yet. Nobody can get out here because not many people have cars.
Alien came out in the 70s. In space, no one can hear you scream.
Yeah, these things can't really happen as much now because now you have satellite phones, cell phones, internet. There's so many ways to transfer information now. And also the country's so built up now that like unless you're in the middle of like Alaska or up on a mountaintop somewhere, like it's really hard to drive around the United States and go 20 minutes without running into large quantities of human beings again. So the 70s was kind of like isolation. The 80s was let's be scared of normal places that are normal, but on the off season, they're really shitty. Don't go to campgrounds. Don't go to campsites. Don't go to, and now these are much more regulated areas. So it's a lot harder to go there. So you're right, 100%. The 90s was everyone's your friend and someone in your own friend group's going to be the killer. And that's because it was kind of before, it was the beginning of social media, right? So you're looking at now people are like, able to kind of work outside their network. So you're right. I don't know what the future is going to be. The thing I'm afraid of is feature films are kind of dwindling away. The attention span of people anymore, short form content. It seems like millions of people watch these 30-second videos on YouTube now, and they're not as interested in feature films. So if anything, I'm concerned a combination of AI and short form content is going to become king. And for me, I love film. I love feature film. I used to love going to a movie theater and sitting there for 2 hours and just getting sucked into the whole experience. And that's not really going to exist, I think, for people in the future.
Yeah. Definitely.
And that would be a tragedy, but I totally see what you're saying on that. Yeah, I mean that's what we love too. It's it doesn't matter what we've all gone through tough times in our life. Movies have always been there. It's like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna go buy a ticket. I don't even know anything about this damn movie, but I'm gonna go sit and watch it. And some of the best moments I've had is when I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm like, damn, that movie came out of nowhere. That is awesome.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna think about this for a long time. Hopefully that experience doesn't change. I mean, I had I have a 6 and a 2-year-old, and my 6-year-old, she wasn't a COVID baby because she was born before COVID, but she hadn't been to a movie, and so it was a couple of years to where we were like, there's this place you go, it's a theater, the lights go down. It was like out of this world, like it didn't exist for her. And being able to finally take her to a movie and she can appreciate that, I just hope that feeling doesn't die in people, because that'll keep it going. Whether it's horror, family film, comedy, whatever it is. I don't want to see the theater experience die either, or anything like that. But
and it's
I'm just going to go down
you have Netflix, and you have Netflix is just cornering the market, and they're going to buy all these other studios. So now essentially the movie theater is becoming your 65 or 80 inch or 100-inch TV in your living room. And it's your entertainment world. You don't have to go to the theater anymore. I mean, literally the window now is weeks, sometimes same day.
Netflix just said they expect what they're hoping for with Warner Brothers is that in time, the threshold for movies in theater will only be 17 days, and then it'll be streaming at home.
Crazy.
I'm just like, that's like the death knell for movie theaters. And I hate to say that, and I hope it doesn't come to that. But
because when I was a kid, I was born I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that, like, when we would go to a movie. Let's say we're in high school, almost 20 years ago. We go to a movie. You got to wait 6 to 8 months for it to come out on DVD or Blu-ray, and you're just licking your chops. You're like, I cannot wait to get my hands on this. I'm going to go the Tuesday that it comes out. I'm going to go down to Target. I'm going to get that movie, and I'm going to sit down and watch it. And so it takes that joy out of it now, because it's like, hey, I'll just wait, 3 weeks, and then I'll spend $20 at home and watch it. But go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
I'm older than you guys, so I'll tell you about a world where if you didn't catch it in the theater, you may never see that movie ever again.
Damn.
Because it's in the theaters, and when I was a little kid, there were no VCRs yet. There was none of that. So, like, when we went to the first video store, I don't know, I was like 5 or 6 years old, they didn't have every single movie that was in theaters. They had the ones that performed well. So if a movie went to theaters, you may never see it again, because it may never even make it to late night cable. It just may never exist. And there's so many movies that didn't get popped on VHS or DVD until 20 or 30 years later. So if there was like really a movie you wanted to see, you needed to see it right then and there, because that may be your only opportunity.
And I feel that's how cult classics kind of came to be, right? Word of mouth, because if you didn't see it in the theater, you don't catch it. It's not going to come to HBO. It's not on TNT stream. It's not on streaming, right? It didn't exist. That's how that cult classic kind of vibe for a lot of those, particularly in the 80s, horror films really came about.
Yeah, well, and like Halloween, I mean, it was literally dead on arrival. Like, it had a horrible opening, and we would have been robbed if that hadn't spread. And how many of those films like ended up just dying because of that? We don't know the number. We have no idea, but it's we talked. We did an episode on the VHS series, the found footage anthology, and we went into this whole spiel about like, well, there was the store called Blockbuster, and there was this thing called a VCR, and you had to rewind the tapes, and it ended up being a funny episode for us. So always like going back to that. But
speaking of films being dead on arrival, Ed, have you ever faced anything that almost just killed one of your films?
I mean, I've had movies here's the thing. The movies I've produced that I've actually gone out there and we've adapted a script or we put it together, we've been fortunate. I have some scripts that haven't been made, but I've never made a movie where we started filming and it did not come out in some capacity. They've at least had some limited theatrical distribution or film festivals or, DVD, VHS, whatever it may be. They've had some way that people could see the movie. I've worked on films with other people. That's why I started producing my own stuff, because literally when I was working a full-time job and I wanted to work in the film business, I was working with a lot of young filmmakers and a lot of like college guys, and they literally would start a film and they'd just be like, man, I ran out of money, or man, my girlfriend's cat died, I can't shoot today, and next thing you know, like you put all this time, energy, and effort into making a film, and then it's just done. And you may have devoted months to it, putting together locations, getting people there. And the enthusiasm is lost sometimes for the filmmaker when they see it's not easy. The film doesn't make itself, and it's not Hollywood. You're shooting, it's freezing cold, it's rain, it's hot. There's neighbors next door screaming at you. There's a guy calling the cops on you because you don't have a permit. Whatever it may be, especially in the world of indie filmmaking, anything can go wrong. I've had situations where we were making 100 Acres of Hell. We had another location we were supposed to shoot at, and when we got there, the guy literally was like, oh, yeah, you guys were going to film here. My wife feels kind of funny about it, so you can't. And we were screwed because we already spent money to bring a whole cast out there. We flew the director in. We're doing all these things. And now a guy's just like, we had a contract from him. You can't film on my property. My wife don't want it. So that we've had circumstances like that where projects have been dead in the water. And then you have to put on your producer's cap. You have to say, man, this is bad. This is really bad, but this is what we have to do. And you have to persevere.
Expect the unexpected. I mean, you have to.
100%.
Oh man, that's fucked up though. Yeah, contract and everything. It's not like you're just like, oh hey, it's my buddy's place, and now all of a sudden he's gone back on it. I mean, that's oh man, that had to have been stressful as fuck.
Yeah, no, and it happens, man. You could put all the planning in the world into something. It's kind of like Mike Tyson says, everybody's the baddest guy in the room until he gets punched in the mouth,
punched in the face.
And,
yep.
Yeah, exactly. But being an independent filmmaker, you're always getting punched in the face. It's just, can you roll with it long enough to make something coherent? That's really what it comes down to. Independent filmmakers don't have the checkbook they can write. Now, I've worked on both sides. I've worked on independent films. And when I was in my old work life, I used to work on big budget films. But I didn't have the producing experience. I was either working the guys supplying security, supplying the extras, wrangling vehicles, whatever it may be, in whatever production capacity I was working in. So I didn't have the big checkbook. If you can't do that to Lionsgate, because Lionsgate's going to be like, we have a contract. We'll have our attorneys down here in 15 minutes, and this is going to cost you this much because that provision is written in there. Independent filmmaker doesn't have that.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And that's what people, especially people that, are, because our show is pretty new. They listen to us because they want to hear us talk horror movies. So they don't really know the nuts and the bolts of it. And how even like I worked on it was a short Dorito film. I think it was 10 minutes. And it was, it ended up being like 27 hours of shooting. And you think, if you don't know anything about what goes on behind the scenes, you're just like, oh, hey, they made a movie, it sucked, whatever. It was a short film, whatever. The amount of work and prep and time that goes into it is absolutely staggering. And unless you are in it, you have no idea how much time it takes. What has been your biggest hurdle with any movie that you, aside from a location being shut down on you the day of? What would you say is the hardest prep? Is it the script writing? Is it the casting? Is it what is the most difficult aspect to make it come together?
Finding the people that are going to work with you to see it through fruition, because you don't have the money to throw at the wall. You don't have the money to say, listen, I'm going to get the absolute director I want. I'm going to get the absolute cast I want. I'm going to have the best director of cinematography. And I'm not saying you work with people that are incapable or unprofessional. You still work with good people. But sometimes you have to work with people doing a job that you don't have the proper amount of time to vet, because you're like, I only have this much money for a sound designer. And you have to kind of really rely on your contacts in the industry to say, hey, this guy's good. He did me a solid on this. He wants to work with you. And then you have to make sure that you can vibe with that person on set. And that's somebody that you can work with. I've been on set where you get there and the person that you thought you were dealing with is a completely different human being once you get there. They might be lazy. They might be talkative. They might like all of a sudden there's a flash of light and they just stare off into space because they don't know what's going on. Then people have different work ethics. So you really have to make sure you do all of your diligence in advance to kind of avoid all those situations.
That's awesome insight. Yeah, because I mean, and it goes for any aspect, any workplace. You know, you don't know. You have to mesh well. Most workplaces, you are stuck with that person, whatever, in an office, whatever. But yeah, how failed relationships can really torpedo a set.
Yes, 100%.
Mm-hmm. Well, I got to tell you, if you ever need a part written for two podcasters, you know, you got your guys right here. We'll work for free.
See, we do incorporate podcasting into our films. We're very open to like opening other elements to the movies that we're working on, especially when you have something that's topical. When we made The Beast Comes at Midnight, every kid wanted to be famous and every kid was opening a podcast. So, of course, our kid had to be a podcaster because that's what I think every kid between the ages of 12 and 16 aspired to when we made the movie 4 years ago.
Yeah, and I really, I really connected with that kid in that movie because you know even his buddy at the beginning, he's like, no man, I'm out. And we're like, damn it, I hope Chris doesn't do that to me.
We're committed for the long haul, baby.
Yeah,
and do you think? And I'm curious, when you think of like the scripts that you know that you want to get picked up, and you're really passionate about passion projects, particularly in the horror genre, do you think audiences today want psychological horror? Do they want shock? Do they want nostalgia? What are your thoughts there, and how do you see that shifting kind of as trends change?
It depends on budget. People want nostalgia if you have Stranger Things money to create nostalgia.
Great point.
People want blood and guts if you only have the budget for Terrifier. And I'm not putting down Terrifier, but it's not Stranger Things when it comes to production value because they just don't have the money to work with. So you can do these big, epic sci-fi pieces. The people that are fans of that huge experience, they're going to notice if your special effects are garbage. The people that are into the lower budget films, well, then they want the gratification. They want the flying limbs and the flying blood and the really scary bad guy to interact with them. That's what they're looking for. So it really comes down to the audience and what their expectations are. At least that's my feeling.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Absolutely.
I think you're spot on.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've all seen the sci-fi films where it's like the cardboard spaceship is going. It's so, yeah, and obviously, I think
that's actually pretty cool. What's kind of really jarring sometimes is you'll have these filmmakers that make these movies, and they're like, "Hey, listen, you know, AI is not great yet, but I'm going to use it." And then you get the really bad AI characters in movies. And it's not Gremlins. You don't have these physical rubber characters that are made by like these professionals. You have a guy who has some program who's like, I'm just going to throw 1,000 elves in or whatever it may be. And they look bad. But the guy doesn't care because like, I have 1,000 elves. I think people would rather see the physical effect as bad as the physical effect is than the bad digital effect, because I think your brain has a harder time. You could be like, hey, you know what? That monster can look goofy because there could be a physical goofy looking monster. But if you have a physical goofy looking AI generated image, you're not in a video game. So it's hard for your brain to process that.
I'm glad you said that. I never bought into the Sharknado. It just didn't look real to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more on that because, I think horror fans in general just lean more towards the practical side of things. They, you know, CGI really. We did one of our first episodes was on Shelby Oaks. I don't know if you've seen that one, but it's found footage feel, which we both really liked the movie. My biggest concern with it and what I hated was that the demon that they show it looks super digitally enhanced. Like it took me right out of it. I wasn't crazy about it, and it really just upsets me when studios decide that they, you know, hey, we have the money to do it, so let's throw this out there and just make it, you know, because we have it. I would rather, like you said, much rather have a practical effect going into it. I'm a nerd for the behind the scenes stuff. So that actually leads me into my next one. What is the most intense practical effect that you've ever done in a movie?
Oh, practical effect. You know, you saw 100 Acres of Hell. So 100 Acres of Hell, the whole movie, it's kind of like our love letter to Friday the 13th, except with probably too many middle-aged men like ourselves in the starring roles. But we wanted like this really masculine machismo. What would happen if like four dudes who could handle themselves wind up against a serial killer instead of like, the prim and proper high school, college kids? Oh no, God, I'm scared. No, we wanted to put a couple guys out there that were badasses. Let's see what happens. But the whole thing culminates to this big fight scene at the end because we have two WWE superstars. We have Samu Enowahi and we have Gene Snitsky, who are going to fight to the death at the end of this movie. One's a guy whose whole life has fallen apart, and the other guy is a creature of lore that lives in the backwoods, probably inbred psycho monster. And they had a fight in front of this fire on a mountaintop, on this coal mountain. And we didn't have expensive lights. We didn't have big cranes to backlight things. Everything's like a practical effect. And we're shooting on a mountaintop. It's literally like 18 degrees on top of a mountain. We're freezing to death filming this scene. But we got to keep this 8-foot high fire burning for 2 entire evenings. So like me and the guys, because we're our own crew at this point, we don't have guys, but we don't get on the radio and go, all right, guys, here we got to get the fire going. We need 2 cords of wood down here. No, it's me and the other producers hustling our asses off to the truck to go get the wood and to keep stoking this fire between sets. So when these two behemoths fight each other, we have this huge 8-foot pyre going behind them. Everything else is kind of small. Even if it looks cool on film, you see an arm get ripped out. It only has to be in a 4x4 box looking cool. That scene was something we had to do epic scope where, the camera is covering, 200 feet of landscape and this huge fire has to be going. So although we've done stuff that's more expensive and grand, that was probably the most difficult because keeping that fire burning for 2 entire evenings was not an easy task.
Well, and like you said earlier, people can pick out fake like that, and you cannot fake fire. Like maybe in little tiny pieces, but if it is such an important part of the scene, and especially on that magnitude, I mean, just that's crazy. That's that stresses me out just thinking about it. So, man, that's awesome.
Yeah. The only advantage was it was so cold that literally we used that fire to warm ourselves like the entire time we were on set because it was our only source of warmth on that entire mountain. Like literally, it would rain and then the wind's blowing up this mountain in Pennsylvania. It's already
it had to be cold up there.
Like,
yeah,
we're watching the snot like freeze on our faces like while we're filming this scene, and then like we'd all stand near the fire and be like, okay, we're gonna film again, and you're trying to handle the camera and stuff, and like your fingers don't move. It was But everybody was a trooper, man. Everybody really wanted to see that movie be made. Snitsky, the WWE wrestler that was the star of it, he's not just the star, he's also a producer on the film and one of the writers of the film. And he's very proud of it. And he worked really hard. I mean, fighting and fires. And he would be there between scenes with us, moving cars and whatever we needed to do to get that movie made. And the whole crew, although it was a small crew, we were all willing to work our asses off to make that occur.
And
I love that.
It shows in the final product that you can tell that everybody gave a shit about this movie. And there are movies where you can tell where it's just like, all right, we're just gonna finish this, whatever, it's done. Sorry, Chris, you were gonna say something.
No, I'm actually gonna go off what you just said. I think so. There is sometimes where it totally makes a difference on the film that's being made when the people who are doing it, the crew, the actors, when they're passionate about it, when they're not just like, oh, this is something to do, this is, I'm showing up for a paycheck or whatever it is. Star Wars famously had a crew that was just like, this is the dumbest thing we've ever, like, the props are falling apart, this is a shoestring budget, we're out here in the middle of the desert. George Lucas would tell the story. He's like, we would cut a scene and the crew would just stare at each other like, are we really out here doing this? Lo and behold, Star Wars became Star Wars. So, the difference in passion is huge. And I'm curious for you, Ed, when you work with crews, and particularly when, like you say, if you're involved in like a lot of aspects of the production, you're the crew, you're the one that's stoking the fire, you're the one that are making things work. What's a decision that you had to fight for that other people might have doubted or was like, I don't think this is going to work, but you stuck to your guns, you fought for it, and it turned out being really good?
I think people are too quick to say that sequence is going to be too hard or that location is going to be too hard to shoot. And let's just rewrite the whole scene or we'll move the location. You also have to be somewhat fluid. You have to be willing to do that. You can't just be so tied into the creative piece of it. I can understand if you had $200 million to work with, you want it to be exactly your vision. So there's some things you have to understand. This is worth fighting for. This isn't worth fighting for. There were a lot of things. I really can't tell you one circumstance. If anything, I think sometimes it would be the cast choices. So when you cast a film as a producer, which I usually do, I'll start the casting process and then include a director. And then a lot of times directors will say, well, I don't want to be involved in this because I want to choose the cast. And I think you can give them some input on that. But when you have the person that's going to be doing that role in your head, that's the person you kind of want to have doing it. So you have to find the right director and team that realizes these are the people you want to bring your project to life. So I don't think I'm so tied into locations or even adjustments in storyline as I am putting the right people there to convey that story.
Awesome. Yeah. Could you just walk through our listeners, just a basic walkthrough on kind of what the casting process looks like for those that may not know kind of what goes into this?
In the old days, when I say old days, we made 100 Acres of Hell almost 10 years ago now. We truthfully were using like Craigslist because we were aware of Backstage, but we really didn't have the apps and things like you do now to make it easy. It was a little more difficult then. So we were like on Craigslist and we're like, hey, we need XYZ, we need this, we need that. Facebook was kind of in its infancy. So we were on some Facebook groups and we'd say, hey, we're going to be filming in Pennsylvania. Do you know any actors in this area that are between these ages may work? And then a lot of it really was, we were very fortunate that the core group of actors that we had, including Ernie O'Donnell, who was in Clerks, and of course Snitsky, came with his friends who were wrestlers involved in the project. Well, these individuals knew other individuals, and they were like, oh, you need a girl between 19 and 25? I know somebody. So we already kind of had a decent pool to pull from. During COVID, when we were casting The Beast Comes at Midnight, different world. People weren't even allowed to be together while we were developing this film. So we used the computer, and we actually did online Zoom auditions. We put an email out, and we did a thing in the local newspaper. It said we'd be filming in the Tampa area. And I knew the exact number at one time, but I think we had 800 people that reached out to us for like 11 roles. So I had to sit and look through all the emails, and I'm sending people back nice emails. I'm like, hey, thank you. You're not really the type we're looking for, but I didn't really say it crudely. As I was very nice. Please keep an eye on us for future things, or maybe we might have some extra positions available. And then I would find like the best 5 or 6, and then we would bring our team together virtually, and then we would allow for them to read for us on Zoom. And then from there, we're able to whittle it down to the best, who we felt the best person was for each role. We liked that so much. We actually did the same thing for Bitter Souls. We kind of cast our main characters, and then all the remaining, we gave the people the opportunity to read for us on a Zoom call. And then that's how we made our decisions.
Yeah, people don't think about that. Yeah, I didn't even think about that with COVID and how different that must have been from an in-person perspective to a virtual. I mean, we're on it right now. We're on a virtual meeting right now doing this show. Mm-hmm. I can only imagine how hard it must have been to accurately, evaluate these actors and actresses on these scenes when you're not seeing them in person. But that's really interesting that you went back to it for an aspect for the next casting as well. So, ton of work. 800 for 11 parts. Wow. Yeah,
it was 11. It might have been a little more because there were also extra parts. So we were able to take some of those folks and offer them extra roles. But it really wasn't many parts in the core cast, because a lot of the main roles were already taken, except for Eric Roberts' part. That wasn't supposed to be Eric Roberts. It was supposed to be a guy named Robert Bronzy, who's the guy who looks like Charles Bronson. And he was supposed to be the mentor character, the Andros. And but it was during COVID. We couldn't get him here. There was a thing. Nobody could. He's from Hungary. Nobody from Hungary could fly to the United States and make a movie because they had to go into quarantine. So then if
Right.
we wanted Bronzy to be here, we had to fly him to Mexico. He would have had to take a COVID test, stay there for 14 days in isolation in a hotel room, fly him to the United States, do another COVID test, and then the same process going back. It would have cost us thousands and thousands of dollars to get him here, put him in hotels, bring him over, do this, do that. And it just wasn't feasible. It was actually easier for us. And he understood. And it was a very weird circumstance that wouldn't have occurred at any other time. And we were very fortunate that we were able to get Eric Roberts in the film because he had an availability on the days that we were filming.
It's funny how that works out sometimes. Sorry, Chris, go for it.
Yeah.
No, you're good. You're good. I was going to ask, I'm curious. Ryan mentioned it earlier. You know, we've been doing this podcast for 3 months now. 3 months, 4 months, Ryan? Something like that.
We're just over 2.
Just over
We're
2.
babies,
Okay.
dude.
Yeah, it feels like we've been
You
doing a
guys are
lot.
doing it like old pros right now. I'm enjoying it very much.
I appreciate
Just
it.
grinding. One thing that I'm always interested in, I feel like every episode that we put out, 3 months in almost, I almost feel like we've learned something every time we do it, like whether how we want to talk about the movies or how much more conversational the two of us are. For you, having been in the business and having been producing movies for as long as you have, was there ever a moment for you where you kind of really were able to just step back and it just kind of clicked in your mind and you kind of said to yourself, you know what, I know what we're doing now. I know how to make this work. I know how to make it happen. Was there ever that kind of moment for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think when we made me and my partners, we made a couple of independent films. They're all independent films. We made a couple before it was, the quality that we could put out on worldwide platforms like we did with 100 Acres of Hell. We made a couple of things. And in the beginning, like we didn't know what to expect. And I got into this kind of late. I mean, I was an extra in movies like Snake Eyes back in the 90s, but I had no control over anything then. I was just a guy who lived in Atlantic City. I showed up. I played a gambler, whatever. When I started to take it seriously, I was already a guy in my 30s working with these college kids. And this first movie we made with a director by the name of Kevin Oros was a film called He Sees You. And it was this movie he wrote. Well, while we were filming this movie, we filmed it in the off season of a Jersey Shore town. I don't know if you guys know Jersey. During the summer, it's the Jersey Shores. People partying. There's the boardwalks. It's packed. There's bars.
GTL,
There's everything going
yep.
on. But like from October to April, it's a ghost town. So we found a hotel that would let us film there in the off season. We get snowed in. So now we have all of these film actors that we found on Craigslist. And not everyone, some of them were great. Some of them we continue to work with. Some of them were challenging. Like some of them were, can't even get into the stories. They were like worst case scenario, like people you did not want on your set. And now we're snowed in a hotel. That was a movie in itself. And these people are snowed in a hotel with us in Wildwood, New Jersey. And, me, I had business management experience, but I didn't have film experience. So I didn't know how to manage that. And I'm like, listen, this is somebody we have to get off the set, but I also can't take this guy and put him out in the snow in a town where he can't get a ride back to New York City. So as you start doing it longer, the way that you manage it is don't get into that position. Vet the people before you get there so you don't wind up with people that are detrimental to your project under the roof with you with no way to isolate yourself from the chaos. So I guess that's kind of the best way to answer it. The more diligence you do in the beginning, the smoother things will go once you actually go into operation.
It's a game of preparation. I like that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But always expect the unforeseen. Always.
Right.
I mean,
I can only imagine.
When we were shooting 100 Acres of Hell, literally, I'd have to climb higher up on the mountain to light down where things are going on down there, and then run down a mountain to go work on the fire pit, and then go run to another part of the mountain to go run the fog machine, to run back up the mountain to adjust the light. And one time I'm up there, I slip on the mountain, and we're talking like a sheer rock face with like a trail that goes up around it. I slip, but they're shooting a scene where everyone had to be crystal clear quiet. And I'm literally hanging by the extension cord on the side of a mountain, like something out of cliffhanger, and nobody even, and they're like, "Hey, adjust the line. I'm hanging for my life on the side of this. I'm making it sound like it's more dangerous and scary than what. I was scared as hell. I thought I was going to plummet like 30 feet down this thing in the darkness, and nobody was going to find me until they were like going to grab lunch, and then they saw my bloody, mangled body like at the bottom of the rocks. So,
anybody seen Ed? Where the fuck has he been?
Where's Ed?
Exactly. And these are the things you have to really expect the unexpected. And you know what caused me to fall? I heard something run behind me, and all I swore, I'm like, that's a bear. That's a bear. A bear is going to eat me. Was it a bear? Probably not. It was probably a fox or a deer, a bunny rabbit. It could have been anything. But in my head, it was something worth almost falling and plummeting down a mountain to not fight a bear.
No, it was a bear. We'll say definitely it's a bear. It's a fucking
definitely
bear.
A bear.
Of course it was a bear, guys. You think I'm going to run from a rabbit?
Right.
But I mean, these are the things you have to be prepared for. And you can't be prepared for that.
Well, and guys that listen, I mean, Ed and us, we've been talking about, 100 Acres of Hell and The Beast Comes at Midnight. You can find both of those on Tubi. Definitely worth a watch. And then Bitter Souls, his newest one, like I said, it's on Prime. I believe you can rent it for like $2.99. Guys, that's less than a coffee. Like, just, Friday night, turn it on. It's definitely worth it, especially now that you have heard kind of what goes on behind the scenes and just how much love is behind it and how much time, effort, energy. It's absolutely incredible. Ed, I could talk to you for fucking, days on end about all this stuff. I have one final question, but it's a banger. So Chris, I'm going to say if you have another question, you can go.
You have piqued my interest now, so please proceed.
So I always bring this up, and it's whether even at my job, if I'm interviewing people, and for whatever reason, it's a simple question, but it always throws people off. So I'm just curious, what is your favorite movie of all time?
American Graffiti.
Oh, shit. Okay.
George
right
Lucas.
Got it.
Great choice. Great choice.
I grew up in a world where
Harrison Ford's first film.
Harrison Ford is great in it. Paul LeMat, Richard Dreyfuss. I mean, it has all these great actors from the 70s in it. George Lucas made it for very little money. I think a lot of the money really went into the musical soundtrack, getting Wolfman Jack there, the old radio DJ. It's a great coming-of-age story that has a little bit of everything in it. It's got a fight scene. It's got malt shops. It's got drag racing. It's got women. I mean, it covers it all. It covers like the whole, there's even like a story where they're like, hey, there's the goat killer. Like they just kind of like blended all these elements together into this film. And for me, it's the greatest film ever made. From a technical standpoint, you watch it and you're like, they got some mistakes wrong with certain cars that are in shots and the wrong motor in this car. I mean, there's always things you can nitpick apart. But at the end of the day, it's probably the film that defined me. Now, the most influential film ever for me, I was 12 or 13 years old and I saw Die Hard. And that was the most amazing cinematic experience. I was never in a movie. Yeah, I think that was the first like surround sound THX film or something that had some kind of Dolby soundtracker. And I remember the explosions are going off behind me and Bruce Willis is shooting and yippee-ki-yay. And I remember I saw that, and that was the day I watched that movie at a matinee at like 2 p.m. And I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to make movies. I want to run around a building and fight Hans Gruber. Like this is life.
We were ranking our favorite Christmas films in December, and I said my favorite Christmas film is either Home Alone or Die Hard, and Ryan was like, yep, it ain't Christmas until we see Hans Gruber fallen.
100%. 100%. And capping off a few as he's going down, too. That's how Hans Gruber rolls,
Hans, Booby, I'm your white knight.
I'm your white knight. So great movie. Great movie.
Usually when I ask that question about favorite movie, everybody's like, oh man, I don't know you're going to ask me. You just were, boom, I knew that was coming. No. You were ready for it.
I mean, you could you could ask me my top 10 and I'd be like, bang, 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 bang.
Well, let's go. Top 10.
Don't have Grapes of Wrath is one of the greatest films ever made.
Great.
Old School. Chasm is one of the greatest films. Okay. The original Indiana Jones.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Raiders of the Lost Ark. When you see that opening with the stone rolling, I mean, that movie covers everything in the world.
That might be the most adventure. That might be the most premier prime adventure film ever made. Ever.
Well, dude, the gore in that one, it's gory, it's PG, but it's fucking like people's faces are melting off. Like, it's insane.
I mean, you go back and watch PG movies from the 80s.
Yeah. Right. I'm sorry?
You go back and watch PG films from the 80s, and you would be like, how is this not PG-13 or R? They were a lot less offended back then.
Poltergeist, they like encouraged you to bring your kids to like see Poltergeist, and like a guy's eating chicken and rips his face off.
He's ripping his face off in the mirror. Yes,
it's crazy.
Or like an airplane, there's just randomly there's a pair of tits out. Like, you're like, this is PG, right? Like,
it was definitely different then. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that's so great.
That's awesome. Fuck. Well, Ed, dude, I've had so much fun talking to you. You're welcome.
This was great.
As have I, gentlemen. Thank you.
So the thing we do at the end of each episode, which I don't think Chris and I are going to do it this one, but we always do an under the radar suggestion that people haven't heard that they can mostly readily available. We try to do streaming. Sometimes it's deep cuts. Sometimes it's more popular ones. But if you had to recommend any movie to our audience that they may not have seen, what would you recommend other than the ones that we've already talked about? Because we recommend them all.
Yeah,
well, it's got to be a horror film.
Yeah, horror film. Okay. Yeah, it is kind of our show.
Okay. I mean, I'm going to go back to like the 80s, 90s. I think there's a lot of movies that came out that were not recognized for how good as they were at that time. And there was a movie, you remember the Scream Queen, Jill Sholin? Mm-hmm. She was in a bunch of movies. I think she was more famous because at one time she dated Brad Pitt than she was actually for the movies she made. And she made some great movies. She was in the original The Stepfather. She was in all these great films. There was a movie called Popcorn the Movie.
Shit.
So you guys are like,
I haven't seen that one.
Popcorn the Movie.
Yeah.
So Popcorn the Movie was like, it had a little bit of a sci-fi edge to it because it wasn't completely grounded in reality. And there was a killer back in like the 70s that kind of reappears now in the early 90s. And Jill Sholin was a scream queen at the time. She did Phantom of the Opera and all these, The Curse. She did all these movies. And this was like a big budget studio film. It went to theaters, but nobody saw it. And it's a movie that I definitely recommend. It possibly didn't age well because it's not real glossy for the time. But it's a movie that is severely overlooked. That's just plain fun. And you need to watch it.
I'm writing it down right now.
Popcorn the movie. Yeah, Popcorn the movie. It should be like when people are like, "Oh, I love that movie." Popcorn should be. I'm not saying top 5, top 10, top 20, but it should be in the top 100 suggestion. Like it should be there.
Awesome. Well, I love it when we suggest things that we haven't seen. So like that's perfect. He was writing it down. I was writing it down. All right, Popcorn the movie.
Yeah,
one more.
Fuck yeah.
Because you guys are young. Race with the Devil. Have you ever seen Race with the Devil?
I'm writing that down too. I've never seen that.
70s road movies were the deal. Everyone knows Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Everybody knows the Friday the 13th. But nobody knows the movie about the guys, two husband, two wives, that decide to go on a road trip in their Winnebago. No cell phones, no CBs. They drive through this little hick town in Texas where they may or may not see a cult murder a woman. And then the whole rest of the movie, there's a cult pretty much chasing them through the southwestern United States. Can they trust the sheriff? Can they trust the townspeople? It came at a unique time where they weren't digitally enhancing a guy driving a Winnebago down a mountain getting shot at by guys in pickup trucks. No, they literally had guys in pickup trucks, chasing a RV down a mountain, smashing into things, streetlights blowing over, and now it would all be done digitally. This was all practical effects.
Yes.
And it really just another awesome movie that anyone that claims to be a horror fan needs to watch.
Done.
Well, I guess we have to watch that. We're going to get discredited if we don't watch that one. Yeah, it sounds like it's like a mix of just the way you were describing it. It's a mix of like you said, Texas Chainsaw.
It sounds like Hitcher, Deliverance meets Deliverance meets The Hitcher meets Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah,
Little Hills Have Eyes action in there.
100%. It's a 70s road movie where if they didn't encounter the cult, it would still be a fun, hey, I'm driving across the country with my two best friends. Haha, we're going to have some jokes. We're going to listen to some country music. It's the 70s. Hey, there's truckers. Let's do the to the guy driving down the road. It would be it would be a different kind of movie, but you add the cult to it. And now you get the paranoia. You can't trust the people in the backwoods town. Is the sheriff weird? And it was, and also the aesthetic of it. It was the 70s. So it's kind of desaturated, and it's a little bit grungy, and it's a lot of fun. And also it's mean-spirited in the respect that not everything can be happy and great. I think it was inspirational, too, of a lot of films like Joyride. Like, there's these movies that came out that were road Jeepers Creepers, that are like road movies. And I think the directors of those films saw movies like Race with the Devil, and they're like, I want to do a road horror picture.
Jeepers Creepers popped into my mind when you were talking about what it was like, because the two people driving down the highway, something they're not supposed to see, and here we go.
It was filmed an hour away from where I am right now in Florida.
Oh damn!
Oh no kidding!
That's awesome. We actually did recently. We did a extreme horror episode of just some of the top ones that we don't necessarily recommend people watch because it's really tough watches.
Very extreme.
So we were all about mean-spirited ones in that episode.
It was like a Serbian film, and
I'm not brave enough to watch a Serbian film yet.
We did. We started very tame. We started with Paul Verhoeven's The Fly with Jeff Goldblum, like the body horror piece, and then we went as deep as Cannibal Holocaust from the 70s and The Green Inferno, and went really deep into those ones.
We did one of the newer ones we did was Megan is Missing, which is also an indie film, found footage style.
The last 15 minutes of that film are absolutely heart-wrenching.
It's so, and I was trying to explain it in the fact that I'm like, look, it is. I don't want people to watch it because it can be so triggering for everybody, but the movie is so well done. Like, I don't want to bash the filmmakers at all because it was a movie that has stuck with me ever since I watched it. And so it was a really interesting episode. So
it felt dirty after watching that movie. Like after watching that film, I was like, if I enjoyed any portion of that film, I'm less of a human being because of
hot shower.
Yeah, and it's like you have to look at a film like that and say it was well constructed, it was well written, it knew where it was going, it knew the direction that it wanted, and then the last few minutes of that film are just absolutely heart wrenching.
Oh yeah,
and like you said, you're a parent, and I'm a parent, and then you see that and you're just like, oh my god, I don't even want my kid to have a computer anymore.
Well, yeah, and I
throw it all away.
I had only watched it because people are like, "Oh, this is the most intense movie you'll ever see," blah blah blah, and I'm like, "Okay, really? Is it?" And then then we get to that part, and it's like, "Oh fuck! I wish I hadn't done that."
Can I take it back? Please let me take it back.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
So Ed, we won't keep you any longer, man. We absolutely loved having you on.
Thank you so much. This is a blast.
First and foremost, guys, support indie filmmaking, support horror films, support any genre that you can. These guys work their fucking asses off. So support indie filmmaking. Go and watch 100 Acres of Hell. Go and watch The Beast Comes at Midnight. Go and watch Bitter Souls. Go and watch these films that we have talked about, and you'll have a little bit more insight. Ed, it's been a pleasure, man. We loved having you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Best of luck going forward.
Keep doing what you're
welcome
doing.
anytime. Yep.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Have a great night, gentlemen, and I appreciate you all, and we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
See you guys.
Thanks for listening to the Roasted Snow Horror Show.
Please follow us on our social media pages and tell your friends.
Pretty please!